I have Ambassador Mark Turner here as our guest. Like I told you, it's going to be 30 minutes. No phone call because of the short time. We understand the ambassador got a lot of engagement today. Mr. Ambassador, good morning. It's good to welcome you back to OKFM again. How are you?
I'm very good. Thanks, Clarence. Yeah, it's good to be here. I really appreciate you giving me the chance to say, or just to have a conversation one last time.
Yeah, I think the last time. I think you're right. How's everything?
Everything's good. As you reported on your show, I think last week, I'm going to be leaving Liberia a little sooner than I'd planned. I'm going to retire from the State Department, from the Foreign Service. So that's been a big decision, honestly, and one I didn't, frankly, take lightly. I've really enjoyed the last year that I was able to be here. For me, it was really such a career culmination to end where I began, if I could put it that way, as a Peace Corps volunteer. So it meant a lot to me. But I think in every life there you kind of balance between professional and personal. And it was time for me to get back to my family and be back with them in the U.S. So not an easy decision, but I'm okay. I'm at peace with it.
Fair enough. And like you said, Ambassador, that's a very big
It
decision,
is.
especially when you say sooner than you expected.
Yeah.
Did something push you?
Just some personal things, family stuff. I mean, I won't get into details, but just I was needed at home, and I think that was what ultimately made the decision easy, if I could put it that way. But by no means was it easy in the sense of I feel like we've done a lot here in the past year, certainly in the past 6 months, and if I could put it this way, we could talk a lot about this going forward, but or further on the interview. But we've made a lot of changes in our relationship, a bilateral relationship, and so that's been tough, but also I think promising. So I feel like we're in a good footing now, but it wasn't easy to leave.
But now the Liberian government is aware of your decision. Am I correct?
Yes, of course. Yes, and to be clear, before I went public and even announced it internally at the embassy, I let President Boakai know, and also Foreign Minister as well.
What did you achieve here as the U.S. ambassador to our country? There have been a lot of ambassadors coming here. What can we remember you for in the context of Liberia's, diplomatic or bilateral, whatever relationship with the U.S.? What did you achieve?
Boy, that's a big question, and I hesitate to take credit for anything because it's always a team effort when you lead an embassy. But look, I hope I'm remembered as someone who cares deeply about Liberia and its trajectory, its where it's going. To come back after almost 30 some years away, and to compare it then to now, I think Liberia's come a long way. Certainly since 2003. What I hope I'm remembered for is, frankly, someone who helped Liberia get on. Let me put it this way: Liberia's accomplished a lot on on the political front since 2003. It's become a stable democracy. I know there's a lot of churn. We have protests today, but that's okay. That's part of any democracy is protests, political back and forth, dialogue. That's all part of it. Discourse. But since 2003, it's had three free and fair elections. It's had two peaceful transfers of power, and you have two former presidents who live here. That's a lot for any democratic country, but especially one in this region. So there's been a lot, but where it's really lagged, if I'm honest, is on the economic development front. And so that's where I hope we've laid the seeds for a real transformation. I think that the way Liberia is going to make real progress in economic development is through investment. We'd like it to be U.S. investment, but it can be investment from other different countries as well. At the same time, you need to really provide an economic future for the young population that are here. So, if I hope we laid the seeds for is that economic development.
Did I hear you say we are making progress now? And if you said that, what do you mean?
Well, I think certainly we have we had a deal just before the president traveled to the United States to meet with President Trump, with the Ivanho Atlantic. That's going to bring I think $10.8 billion into Liberia. That's not small money, as they say. That's significant investment. We also saw AML, ArcelorMittal, also expand its operations, so it's committed to being here for a long time. Those are big investments. What I'd like to see, honestly, is, and I think you will see, is growing that small and medium business environment here. I remember a trip I took up to Lofa where I met with small businessmen up there, small business people, because women are a vital part of that as well. And really, what I came away with was, what are the biggest problems they're facing is an access to loans, to credit. If you can fix that with the banking system by expanding it and by providing loans to these small businesses, you can grow that small and medium enterprise. I go back to, when I look at this country, and again, we'll get into the illegal immigration and all that. When I look at this country, how do you solve all of that? You solve all of that by creating opportunity here. And it's like I don't want Liberians to have to go seek that opportunity in the United States, certainly not illegally. I want them to find it right here, and that's what they need to. That's the key to the next phase of Liberia's development, if I could put it that way.
The news of your retirement
Yep.
was greeted with mixed reaction amongst Liberians. It depended on who was speaking and who you talked to, especially, like you said, there was a major signing. The Liberian government did not announce that to the country. It took a U.S. embassy statement to alert Liberians that there was something signed. Something is being signed. President Boakai is about to go to the U.S., and then the news of Ambassador Tunnel retirement comes on. So there were a lot of speculation. Did you hear some of the speculations?
I'm sure. And I'm fully aware as someone who's, by the way, let me correct myself. It's a $1.8 billion investment, which is a lot still, but I didn't mean to misspeak. Look, I've spent a lot of time in the press back in the U.S. I was spokesperson for the State Department for like 7 years. I get it. I was kind of laughing to myself and to my colleagues when I said, when I was at the events that were happening just very quickly and coming together. It's all good. At the end of the day, I can only speak for myself and what we're trying to do. The Ivanho Atlantic deal, as I reminded people, that was 7 years of negotiation. And by the way, I think the reason why the government hasn't necessarily announced it full publicly is it still needs to obviously get approved by the legislature. That's a critical component in any democracy. But to just get it past the IMCC and to get it to where it was, I think was a huge success. I'll also be honest, while we weren't trying to force a deal before the trip to Washington, I have personally been pushing hard because I want to see some wins for Liberia before I leave. That's important to me.
Some Liberians believe when Ambassador Turner gets back to the U.S. and with his family, not in a diplomatic role, probably he will be as bold as he's supposed to be. At this point, he's a diplomat wearing a diplomatic coat, and so he's kind of framing his words. What do you say to Liberians who think that retirement is not normal? Something happened. The ambassador don't want to talk about it, but either he will push, he's not satisfied, but something is beyond what he say he think he wants us to know.
One thing when you're retiring, I certainly am being a little humorous here, but you don't mince words anymore because I'm retiring in a few weeks. Now this is all about my wife, who I love, and my kids, who I want to spend time with, and some things we have to deal with as a family. So that's it. Again, I feel strongly about the trajectory of this country. I want to see Liberia succeed. I want to see the U.S. Be Liberia's partner of choice. Those are the things that matter to me in this job. I'm aware that there's lots of other countries competing for Liberia's attention, and that's okay. That's part of what diplomacy is too. That's what keeps me going and what has really fueled my work in the last 6 months. But we haven't even gotten to the fact that we've had a lot of hard work in the past 6 months in transforming that relationship, which also included shuttering U.S. assistance and USAID, which was not easy.
You were here as a Peace Corps volunteer.
Yep.
You came back as ambassador to our country. Yeah. If you were to walk in the streets of Monrovia anyway, you talk to a group of Liberians. Liberians believe that corruption and bad governance are amongst the many things undermining Liberia's progress. from an honest personal perspective, what do you think? And what do you think we need to do if we must make progress?
It's a great question and something we talk about all the time. Absolutely, corruption is a major obstacle. And as you say, it's so deeply rooted. I mean, I remember as a Peace Corps volunteer, it was like, small stuff, like small corruption. And it also was partly like, we'd go to a clinic and we'd have a revolving drug fund, which is something we tried to do, and we'd have it at the clinic. But we get there, and because the head of the clinic hadn't been paid for 2 months by the ministry, he ate the money, because he needed to feed his family. That's corruption, but it's also small. It's like, but it's partly. So how do you fix that? You have a government that's able to pay its servants, its people who work for it, on time and pay them an honest wage. That's part of it. You also have to have public servants who go into government, politicians, ones who serve at the legislature and others who serve at the ministries, who are honest and there for the right reasons and aren't there to enrich themselves. That's a mental change, a mindset that needs to change. And I think you can get there. Partly you need to have a government that's able to generate enough revenue that it's able to form a budget and give its ministries the money they need to go after their priorities. It's a lot of different elements, and I can see promising signs in all directions. Not quite there yet. And the other thing is you have to, you can't have, a legacy of impunity. And I know the president's been trying to attack that as well. I think Liberia has the right tools on that front, the LAC and other auditing agencies, but you just need to follow through. You need to be able to prosecute those kind of things to set an example. So it's a bunch of different things. It's not all going to happen overnight, obviously, but you got to keep chipping away at it.
You took over as ambassador at the time when Liberians were calling for the establishment of a war economic crimes court all over the place. President Bouakai Ouna issued an executive order. There is an office of the War Economic Crimes Court in its formative stage.
Correct.
Did you play any particular role in providing sufficient evidence to your government back home about the need to support this War Economic Crimes Court as you are leaving Liberia? Are there indications that the court will have some support from the U.S. government?
So certainly before my arrival here and after my arrival here, there was considerable support from the previous administration for the OEC, for the War and Economic Crimes Court, and the Office of the War and Economic Crimes Court. It's something that they understand completely. It's still something they understand completely, but I think you've seen a shifting of priorities. So what we're able to offer now is less, frankly, financial assistance and more technical assistance. And we've done that. We've even since the change in administrations, we brought people over to work with the OEC, and it's not an easy thing. And I would say this. It's lacking resources as well. I know that President Bouakai prioritizes this, but he and his administration also need to give it the resources it needs. You either resource it properly and it functions, or you don't and it doesn't. And right now, I would say it's struggling because they don't have the proper resources. They get money, and then the money runs out, and then they've got to look for more money. That's kind of no way to run a serious priority for any government. So I would say that myself and also other embassies and other, I would say the EU and the Swedes and the Germans are also seized with this, as are the Cameroonians, the other diplomatic corps. We see the importance of this because, again, and we can get into this as a discussion, but I've been really struck since coming back post-war. There's a lot of Liberians who lived through that, who have kind of repressed that and don't talk about it often. And I wonder and worry about the next generation that came after that war, the young people growing up today. You lose that national memory, and you risk going back down that rabbit hole or that slippery slope. So I think as much as Liberia can do to hold people accountable and to also keep that memory alive. And that's an interesting way to look at, do you do an oral history? Do you do a museum? How do you keep that memory alive? But you need to preserve that memory because otherwise you risk going back.
You what? Except that you were not clear in my opinion. You said that to mean that you don't think there might be any direct support from the U.S. to the War Crimes Court office at the moment, or there is a change in priority now.
A change in priorities. So the office, the Global Criminal Justice, that was very involved in the War Crimes Court here, has been disbanded, and so they're still reconfiguring. So I can't give an honest appraisal now what that assistance will look like. I just can't.
What do you say to Liberians who think America created the impression through some of your officials that they would have supported this process, but since the death of Senator Prince Johnson, you know, it's not forthcoming. America, your government now is behaving as though, you know, there is a change in priority. We have shifted our focus now, and people are believing that if this thing was not about Johnson, you would still support the government.
No. Let me disabuse any of your listeners of that. It had little or nothing, zero, to do with the death of Prince Johnson. It has more to do with the change in administration and them coming in with different priorities and a different reorganization of the State Department. And again, I can't say definitively that there won't be assistance available in the near future or even the midterm future. It's just that we don't know at this point because we're going through. I mean, I'm sure you're aware of this, but there was a dismissal of more than 1,000 employees from the State Department. Is that right? The number on that? Yeah. 1,300 just last week. That's pretty big upheaval internally for any organization, any institution to go undergo. So they're still sorting out this reorganization and what it looks like going forward. And so I just can't speak to what money or what funds we'll have and assistance to have for something like this. But nothing to do with the death of Prince Johnson. There's other individuals out there who are culpable.
You serve.
Sure.
You are living now.
Yeah.
And sometimes when people leave like this, their 10-hour notes and their recommendations and other things they leave here to ensure anybody who succeed them will see some of the things. One of the things Liberians complain about is the issue of visa.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, oh, you know, the people take money from us. If they do not give you the visa, they don't refund your money. But basically, people think when an individual Liberian goes to America and lie to your embassy here through the consulate section for visa, you don't hold them responsible. Instead, you hold the country responsible, and then the vast majority of the people suffer because of people who are not honest. How do you address that?
Sure, and honestly, it's a question I get all the time, and it's one well posed by yourself. Let me unpack this in a couple different ways. So every country has a sovereign right to protect its borders, and illegal immigration is something that every country takes seriously, even Liberia. Certainly Liberia does. You want to protect your borders from people entering illegally and doing who knows what in the gray economy. So you need to, enforce borders and border controls. And one of the key ways we do that is through visas and giving out visas, and then having people who get those visas, the individuals who receive those, what do we call them, visitor visas or visiting visas, to go to the United States, live up to what that visa says on it when it gets stamped by the border control, that you must leave by this date. Otherwise, you become an illegal immigrant. And that is a problem. And to your point, why aren't the individuals held accountable? Why is the country held accountable? We keep track of the amount of visas that are overstays. And that allows us to say, okay, Liberia has a very high overstay rate, one of the highest in the world. And so we need to work with the Liberian government, which, by the way, we're doing, to try to address some of the root causes of that illegal immigration and how we can fix it. And those are both short-term and long-term efforts, if I could put it that way. But it's incumbent, and I thought you said this really well when you talked about this on your show probably 3 weeks ago, just about, every Liberian that goes to the United States and stays there illegally hurts the chances of the next Liberian standing in that line for the visa. And to your point about visa fees and paying the high visa costs, a couple of things. One is, please don't try to engage in visa fraud, you're spending your money needlessly, you're going to lose your money, and you're going to get caught. We've got experts who can spot this a mile away, and we do. And so you're just wasting your money. And frankly, these people who do visa fraud are just taking advantage of you, or if you're going to go that way. If you want to go to apply for a visa, make sure you make your case as strongly as possible that you have sufficient ties here in Liberia, that the consular officer who adjudicates, who hands out your visa, is able to grant that, because they say, oh, this person has ties back here. They have a family, they've got a job, they've got whatever. Now, I recognize when I say that puts young Liberians at a risk, because they don't have a lot of those ties, right? They don't necessarily have jobs. They don't necessarily have families here. So that's hard. They have to prove their case. And the only way that all of this gets easier is you bring that overstay rate down. You bring that visa fraud rate down. And again, we're working on short-term solutions to that. The long-term solution, and again, I've seen this elsewhere. I'm Irish American. I can tell everybody, all your listeners, that Ireland in the 1980s was just like Liberia in the terms of overstays, because the economy there was not good. So you fix that. Sorry, just let me finish. When you fix that, when the economy in Ireland got better, that overstay rate, and now Irish people can go to the United States on tourist visas. They don't have a problem.
Ambassador Mark Turner of the United States is our guest this morning for 30 minutes. He's here, and we're talking different issues. Ambassador, though you are leaving, but you stay here, are we, Liberia government, are we in good diplomatic standing with the government of the United States of America? Do we risk any visa restriction and stuff like those? What do you know?
So I can say you're in very good standing, because otherwise, when you consider that President Boakai was among the first African leaders to be invited for a very private, exclusive lunch with our president, and then followed that up with meetings at the State Department. Your foreign minister has been at the State Department several times since this new administration. I think it shows that Liberia's stature is rising. That's certainly evidenced by the fact that you've won the non-permanent seat on the UN Security Council. All of these things, and frankly, the fact that Liberia has very strong supply of natural resources, iron ore and other minerals that make it attractive to investors. All of these, I would say, have put Liberia on our radar screen, if I could put it that way. And we realize we're competing with other countries who want to have influence on Liberia in many different levels. So it's a competitive thing, diplomacy, right? I mean, we like to consider ourselves, when I said earlier, I want to leave here knowing that that the U.S. is Liberia's partner of choice, and vice versa in the region. And that's what I have to work on to strengthen every day. Sometimes that means doing really hard things like, ending U.S. assistance here. It also means having a really tough, candid conversation about how do we being the U.S., but also the Liberian government, work to bring down illegal immigration. I think we're making progress. I hope that there's no visa restrictions. I can't promise anything right now. That's all being evaluated.
Could you, in 1 or 2 minutes, explain clearly with, giving us a practical picture of what President Trump always meant when he talks about shifting from aid to trade, shifting the U.S. government's priority from aid to trade? What does that mean?
Sure. It's a bumper sticker, if I could put it that way, meaning it's a really short, succinct way to put something that's a big, broader paradigm shift in how we're doing business. But again, I don't want to say that we've never done this. Commercial diplomacy, which means advocating on behalf of U.S. companies, U.S. investors, has been always part of our toolkit and also part of our duties as diplomats. But I would say there's a greater emphasis now than there was before. I think that's a good thing, personally. I don't want to malign our assistance efforts, which, as I said earlier, have really been transformational for Liberia. But I think at a certain point, you've got to recognize that in some ways, there was a certain dependency on those assistance dollars every year in a way that wasn't allowing Liberia to grow the capacity or the capability of doing carrying out these functions themselves. There are a lot of good people in this government. There's a lot of good people here that I think have a good vision for this country. And I think the way to get there is through investment. Again, I'd love it to be U.S., but it can be others. EU, I know Turkey's looking at Morocco. There's lots of Gulf. There's lots of would-be investors here. As long as it's responsible investment, and by that I mean, is going to give people jobs, good jobs, provide opportunity, look after the community, et cetera, then I'm all for it. We're all for it. But I think that's what if I could sum up trade, not aid. It's a shift away from a dependency on assistance to the opportunity that real investment would bring to this country. Liberia has a very young population. They need to provide that population with good paying jobs in order to have a safe, prosperous future.
Ambassador, where do you go from here? Even though retiring now, what do you go?
I'm gonna start my own radio show back in. Actually, I love radio. I started out in college. I did that in college. Yeah, I loved it. That's why I have the utmost respect for what you do, Clarence. Honestly, I said before, I listen to your show every morning on my way into work. It's not a long commute.
I'm so grateful for that.
But no, honestly, I do. And I think what you do, I'll get to my future, but I think what you do is so vital. And I always pick up, even if it's for 10 minutes, I get the interviews, the way you do them, the way you have your eyes and ears on the street just with the protests this morning. It always gives me a nugget of just information that I didn't know before. So I appreciate it.
I'm grateful.
Well, it's important, honestly, and don't ever think it's not. And don't ever underestimate the impact that your voice and those of your colleagues in the media has. For me, I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. I have done a lot of call it what you will, public relations, strategic communications, public affairs. I like that. I like being out, engaging. But I also really like if I could put it this way, the issues that matter in Africa, whether it's in Liberia in some private capacity. I don't know. I also like teaching. So I'm wide open. I just got to figure. That's what I'm spending the next couple months trying to figure out.
I know, Ambassador Turner. Thank you so much as you retire home and go to your family. Thanks. And I can see you in the morning, just waking up from bed, thinking about Liberia and those things. But before you go, what is that one thing you want to leave with us Liberians? That message that is so touching, that have touched you, that you think, no, I can't go back without letting this out.
Sure. Believe in yourselves. Believe in Liberia's potential to look after its own affairs, to develop its own potential economically, politically. Trust in your systems. I know that's hard sometimes in a democracy, but do so. And believe in your institutions. And really go out and seize your future. And I'm speaking almost not specifically to young Liberians, but mostly to them, as believe in your country, believe in the future. And stay here and invest in this country. And by that, I mean emotionally, but also financially, give back to your country. That's the way you really build a future.
What is that one soup? What is that one food, Liberian food, that you're taking with you?
Oh, man. I'm from Grand Bassa, so I like a good fufu, but I like cassava leaf. It's hard for me to pick one, really.
Ambassador Turner, I want to say thank you so much. I look forward to meeting you anytime in the future. Thanks. In your individual capacity.
I hope to come back, and if I do, I'll definitely look you up. Absolutely.
Wow. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, outgoing. Can I now say outgoing U.S. ambassador?
Yes, you can.
and thanks to the people from public affairs. They continue to do a fantastic job.
Yep.
Thank you. Thanks to the U.S. government and people for everything you do for Liberia. And if I were to remember something from the man you succeeded, former Ambassador McCarthy, he says, what would I have said to J.J. Roberts? What are you going to tell Washington about us?
I'm going to say Liberia is a serious player. And by that, I mean it offers a lot in terms of partnership, in terms of economic opportunity. Take Liberia seriously.
Take Liberia seriously. The voice of outgoing U.S. Ambassador Mark Turner.